This is a suspenseful Korean drama that aired in 2021. In this episode, I will be explaining the series' 10 pieces of puzzle. The story begins. A man sits alone by the bridge, calmly waiting at the scene for the police to arrive, because he has killed the mayor, and he did it in front of the police and reporters. He hung the body from a bridge 100 meters high, but under the long guns and cameras of the police and reporters, he showed not a trace of fear. Instead, he calmly and composedly sat at the crime scene, appearing exceptionally calm. Suddenly, a car broke through the police checkpoint and headed straight for the suspect. The man was none other than Senior Detective Kim Kyung-ho from the police force. As soon as he got out of the car, Kyung-ho rushed toward the suspect. Because the killer is his partner, Han Sang-ming. He is a genius criminal psychologist in the police force, and in Korean history, he is the most legendary detective who has never been surpassed. Jing-hao immediately questions Han Sang-ming, asking why he was at the crime scene. Han Sang-ming's answer, however, leaves him stunned. Han Sang-ming directly admits that he was the one who committed the murder. Jing-hao naturally could not believe that his partner would commit murder. He grabbed Ming's collar and demanded to know what he was really up to. However, Han Sang-ming avoided answering. Helpless, Jing-hao had no choice but to hand Ming over to his colleagues at the police station. Han Sang-ming remained surprisingly calm after arriving at the police station, but Jing-hao kept racking his brain, trying to figure out what Han Sang-ming's true motive was. The police found numerous fingerprints of Han Sang-ming inside the victim's car at the scene, on the hanging malfunctioning cable. The collected DNA matches Han Sang-ming's completely. Now it seems, all evidence at the scene points to Ming-gu. It is the killer. However, Jing-hao knows that such obvious evidence must have been deliberately left by him. If Ming-gu really wanted to kill, he could do it without leaving any evidence for the police. And when Jing-hao, who knows Ming-gu well, saw Ming-gu make this move, more certain about his thoughts, because every time Han Sang-ming has control of the situation, he subconsciously makes this gesture. Suddenly, the interrogation room door was pushed open. A woman walked in. She was Han Sang-ming's girlfriend, and also the daughter of the murdered mayor, Lu Shi. In the face of his questioning, Han Sang-ming calmly replied, "That is right. I killed your father." Lu Shi was left in disbelief upon hearing this, but he also noticed Han Sang-ming's movements. A sense of doubt arose in his heart. Jing-hao was burning with anger. He demanded Han Sang-ming to reveal the details of the case. However, Sang-ming calmly confessed to the crimes he committed. Jing-hao sought to investigate the truth of the matter. He asked Liu Shi about Han Sang-ming's recent unusual behavior. Liu Shi then recalled that Han Sang-ming had indeed changed recently. He discovered that Han Sang-ming had a phone he had never seen before. That night, he suddenly blacked out and lost consciousness. By the time he woke up, it was morning. He had no idea what had happened in the meantime, but they were certain that Han Sang-ming had a hidden motive for doing this. However, at his father's funeral, when Lu Shi accidentally saw the clock on the wall showing the time, he suddenly remembered something, so he called the forensic doctor. He hurriedly went to see Han Sang-ming, and told Han Sang-ming very confidently that he did not kill anyone, because Lu Shi confirmed with the forensic doctor the time of his father's death was between 9 and 10 p.m., and on the day of the incident, Lu Shi clearly remembered that during this time period, Han Sang-ming was definitely at home. But no matter what Lu Shi said, Han Sang-ming still insisted that he was the murderer. And in court, he voluntarily admitted to the crime of killing, because the evidence left at the scene was conclusive. The judge sentenced Han Sang-ming to 15 years in prison. However, when leaving the courtroom, Han Sang-ming once again unconsciously made. That is a habitual gesture he only makes when he is strategizing behind the curtains. As a seasoned forensic blood analyst, Lu Shi keenly perceives that his real goal is to find a way to get himself into prison. That is what Han Sang-ming truly aims for. Since now, Han Sang-ming has already achieved the purpose of sending oneself to prison, so there will definitely be some action next. So he decided to start investigating the current inmate list of Anlam prison to find out the true purpose of Han Sang-ming. However, on the first day Han Sang-ming arrived at the prison, a terrifying conspiracy he never anticipated began. Soon, Han Sang-ming smoothly entered the prison. Coincidentally, he was assigned to the same cell as the prison boss. What no one knew was that this was all meticulously planned by Han Sang-ming. Even before he entered prison, he had already negotiated terms with the boss. An agreement was reached. After Sang-ming quietly finished packing his things, the two exchanged a knowing glance. As long as Big Brother is in prison and cooperates with Han Sang-ming's plan, Han Sang-ming promises that once everything is over, he will deposit 50 billion into his mother's account, and his life will be much more comfortable in the future. Han Sang-ming has been in prison for less than 2 hours, and the prison is already rife with undercurrents. The prison guard opens opens the door. They called everyone in the cell up to the rooftop. Big Brother clearly sensed something was wrong, because the rooftop had already been repaired for leaks yesterday. Han Shangming also realized something was suspicious. Sure enough, a large group had already gathered on the rooftop. As soon as their group arrived on the rooftop, the prison guard gave them a signal with his eyes. Then he quickly turned and locked the iron gate behind them. Their target is clear. They immediately demand that he hand over Han Shangming. But at this moment, the older brother steps in to stop them. Unexpectedly, they all draw their prepared weapons. It turns out Shangming just went to prison, and someone outside is pressuring the warden to make Han Shangming disappear forever inside the prison. A premeditated murder is taking place on the rooftop. The elder brother and Han Shangming are outnumbered. They are already at a disadvantage. Moreover, the other side is already armed. Soon, Han Shangming and his group are forced to retreat. Unfortunately, Shangming is injured. The elder brother can only call for a stop. He must lead the younger brothers to retreat first. But the iron gate had already been locked from the inside by the prison guards. However, the opposing gang leader Abu pulled out gasoline he had prepared in advance and poured it on the rooftop. Then he struck a spark with an iron rod. The rooftop instantly turned into a sea of fire. Han Shangming and his group were all trapped in a corner. Just as the opposing leader picked up the gasoline, they threw it at them. Han Shangming led everyone in a leap onto the rooftop opposite. It was only the first day, and he almost lost his life in prison. Han Shangming knew his time was running out. He asked his big brother about the structure of the 4th District building in the prison. That building had been closed for over 10 years. But strangely, 2 years ago, they suddenly renovated it. Even more strangely, they assigned a few special prisoners inside. They know each other. My older brother said, "That place does not look like a prison. It is more like protecting someone very important. No one has ever seen that person's face. They only know his prison number is 1669. Big brother also said, "The person leading on the rooftop today is from that building." After Abu ruled the prison for a while, he and his gang were transferred to District 4. Han Shangming can basically confirm that the mysterious prisoner number 1669 is the person he is looking for. After Abu's failed attempt to assassinate Han Shangming, the prison warden found Scarface at night and planned another assassination. Scarface had already attempted to assassinate Han Shangming before he was imprisoned. Unexpectedly, after failing, he was left with a scar on his face. The next day, a Bible was sent to the prison for Scar. The guard checked it and found nothing unusual. Only a few pages looked like they had been soaked in water. Later, a prisoner tore off some fragments from the Bible and put them in water, stirring constantly. Then he threw the rest of the Bible into a large fire. That night, Abu suddenly found Scar. He said with a mischievous grin, telling him to really enjoy the coffee in his hand. But the scar-faced man was found poisoned in the middle of the night, foaming at the mouth. Lu Shi had just arrived at the scene. The prison doctor immediately concluded that it was a prisoner's suicide. Prisoner suicides are quite common in the prison. Lu Shi and Jing Hao did not believe the prison doctor's nonsense at all. The two went directly to the warden, but the warden also jumped to the conclusion of suicide without any evidence. This was only a few hours after the inmate's death. The prison doctor and the warden had a unified stance, which clearly indicated collusion. The data shows that the prisoner has just over a month left until release. Yet, he chose to commit suicide at this time. This is clearly unreasonable. This is definitely a premeditated murder. However, the prison warden explained that some prisoners are afraid of readjusting to normal life and may choose to commit suicide. At this moment, Lu Shi made a strange request to the prison warden. He wanted to search Han Xingming's cell. After finding no valuable clues, he brought Jing Hao to the incinerator to rummage through it. When they found the partially burned Bible, Lu Shi became even more convinced that the prisoner did not commit suicide, but was murdered. And only one person can accomplish this. Jing Hao asked if it could be Han Shangming. He received a definite answer from Lu Shi. Jing Hao simply did not believe Lu Shi's guess. After all, Han Shangming had only arrived at the prison the day before. It was impossible for him to have such a meticulous plan. But Lu Shi confidently explained with conviction, the Bible is their leader. Prisoner poisoning case. It is exactly like the poisoning case at the former fishing ground. Could it be that the first thing Han Shangming did after going to prison was to kill Scarface? Lu Shi directly interrogated him as a forensic blood analyst. As soon as Han Shangming sat down, he took out the Bible that had not been completely burned. Why did Han Shangming kill the Scar Man? Lu Shi's thinking is so clear because, in a previous case, the suspect dissolved the drugs and infused them into the pages of a book. Using this method to smuggle drugs, the person who taught Lu Shiji to solve cases this way was Han Shangming. However, this time, Han Shangming firmly denied that he had killed anyone. Lu Shi also changed his previous attitude. He said he would investigate thoroughly, and when the news broke that the scar-faced man had died from poisoning in prison, another woman, Sushi, also believed that this must be Han Shangming's doing. He arrived at District 4, losing his temper at the prison warden. What they are worried about is is, if someone in the prison poisons someone, and they can't find the culprit, then the leader they protect in prison, number 1664, could be at risk at any time. Lucy watched the forensic autopsy process from start to finish, and learned about it immediately. The scarred man died from cyanide poisoning, but the coroner can't determine the source of the cyanide in such a short time. At this moment, a tattoo on the scarred man's body caught Lucy's attention, because he had once seen an identical tattoo on a criminal during a fight. Meanwhile, inside the prison, Big Brother is also questioning the scarred man, whether he was the one who killed him. But Han Shengming did not give a direct answer. He simply calmly told Big Brother to just follow their deal. However, Lucy made a significant discovery. The Bible on Han Shengming's bookshelf is actually missing. At that moment, he suddenly received a phone call, telling him to turn on the TV and watch the news. Lucy was utterly shocked. The report said someone anonymously accused Han Shengming, who was imprisoned, of committing another murder of a roommate. Murders kept happening inside the prison, and all the clues left by these consecutive murders. All evidence points to the genius criminal psychologist Han Shengming. The toxicology report of the prisoner who died from poisoning is out soon. The cyanide used by the murderer came from Russia. It is identical to the cyanide tested in the Bible, completely the same, and Lucy just happened to find that the Bible in Han Shengming's home had vanished. Given this, it seems the identity of the murderer is already quite obvious, but this is a revelation about Han Shengming's energy consumption, yet it led to a chilling statement that left everyone on edge. He said, if Han Shengming really orchestrated Scarface's death and then leaked the information, the Bible truly came from his house, then now, they are acting entirely according to his wishes, because this might have been arranged by him in advance. Lucy also realizes that everything is part of Han Shengming's plan. No one else could execute it so perfectly. Han Shengming finally confesses to his elder brother that all his plans are outside the prison. What they need to do now, just quietly waiting for these few days to pass. Sure enough, Han Shengming had already set up all the arrangements outside early on. Han Shengming guessed the opposing force would very likely find a replacement for Scarface to protect prisoner number 1669. Just as he expected, Sushi was gathering men, rearranging the strategy, playing another card. Because eliminating Han Shengming, the threat has become imminent. But what they do not know is, Han Shengming's next move is to kill prisoner 1669. Which is Sushi, the leader of the entire gang. My younger brother doubts Han Shengming. He thinks he is completely incapable, but Big Brother believes. On his first day in prison, he perfectly planned the murder of Scarface Han Shengming, showcasing terrifying skill that far exceeded his expectations. But this Big Brother declared that he only promised to protect Han Shengming's personal safety and would never let his hands be stained with blood again. Lucy, in order to find out Han Shengming's plan and purpose, approached Han Shengming again. But this time Han Shengming warned him that for what is coming next, he did not want Lucy to get involved again, and he loudly scolded him about what was about to happen. He simply can't handle it. Stop all his upcoming investigations. At this moment, Lucy asked Han Shengming a question. His date with her, was that also part of his plan? Han Shengming did not answer. 17 months ago, at Lucy's grandfather's birthday party, while Lucy was attending the party, he suddenly received a message saying that his grandfather was looking for him. However, when he and his secretary went upstairs, they found that no one answered the door no matter how much they knocked. He pushed the door open and looked in. His grandfather was already lying in a pool of blood, unconscious. At that moment, Han Shengming arrived on the scene. After observing for a moment, it is clear that this was definitely committed by someone familiar. Obviously, the blood splatter starts from the doorway. The killer began stabbing the victim at the doorway. And usually, when someone decides to kill a familiar person, the crime happens before any conversation. This is definitely not out of conscience. It was out of instinct. Han Shengming specifically instructed that the mayor must be kept here. During the interrogation, Han Shengming learned that the deceased was Lucy's grandfather. Lucy was at that time publicly revealing her identity to Han Shengming. That is when the two of them started to have contact. However, during Han Shengming's Q&A survey, a person covered in blood hastily left the crowd in the chaos. After Han Shengming examined the scene, he reviewed the entire process of the murder. The whole act of murder took a total of 1 minute and 30 seconds. At that time, the secretary went downstairs at 6:40. Lucy found out that the chairman's grandfather's time was 6:52. In other words, the entire time of the crime was only 1 minute and 30 seconds. Considering the travel time, the killer must have acted as quickly as possible, committed the crime, and then left. The entire building's surveillance was cut off at 6:30. So, that means, it is very likely Clearly, the surveillance captured the moment the killer cut the cameras. However, when Han Shengming checked with the security room, he found that the person who came out of the surveillance control room was actually the mayor. Han Shengming speculated that the mayor used a blind spot in the cameras to cover for the killer while cutting the surveillance. Then he incited the killer to murder his own father. Hearing Han Shengming's speculation, Jin Hao panicked because he knew Han Shengming was not joking at all. Han Shengming had noticed that during the press conference, before the reporters asked questions, he had already expressed his intention for revenge. And as a politician, he should have been trained on how to express his emotions. But in the process, he made a mistake. He spoke out what he wanted to say before the reporters asked questions. This was not a statement from a politician. It was a reaction driven by instinct. It is very likely that the former president has a massive fortune. This is his biggest motive for murder. However, no matter how flawless the inference is, it remains an inference. There is no substantial evidence. Jing Hao has no way to start. Moreover, investigating the mayor, the difficulties involved are unimaginable. And not long after, Han Shengming unexpectedly saw the mayor's daughter, Lu Shi, preparing to start the job as a criminal profiler. And it was at this moment, Han Shengming began his plan, because he was certain Lu Shi was the person who knew his family best. So, Han Shengming started inviting Lu Shi to participate in the case investigation. They collected evidence from the hotel's only exit passageway. All surveillance footage from 2 hours before the incident is being reviewed. Han Shengming also took the opportunity to learn about Lu Shi. While he was dropping Lu Shi off after work, he found it strange. Lu Shi's living situation was completely inconsistent with her persona, because Han Shengming did not know about Lu Shi's childhood. Once witnessed his mother hanging herself at home, and his mayor father not only watched coldly, but also pushed the grieving Lu Shi aside, and at the scene where his grandfather was murdered. The terrified Lu Shi also discovered his father's strangely calm expression was similar to that at his mother's death scene. The expression shown is exactly the same. What is even more terrifying is that beside Grandpa's grave, Liuxi actually saw father smiling eerily. But one thing, Han Shengming guessed right. Liuxi was actually aware of many things. They quickly identified a suspect by comparing surveillance footage. They locked onto one suspect at 7:02. The suspect was seen walking into the hotel. 16 minutes later, he was caught on another camera on the other side. But within that time, he would have had to go up to the 21st floor, kill someone, and come back down. It is obviously unlikely. But in fact, both of them know this person is not the murderer. He is just a scapegoat covering for the real culprit. Soon, a witness provided a lead to the police. On the day of the incident, they saw the mayor's younger brother, Ryu Sung-soo's car, stopped near the hotel. Han Shengming and Jing Hao immediately found Lu Xingxiu. Jing Hao got straight to the point and asked Lu Xingxiu if she had gone to the hotel. Lu Xingxiu, however, did not hide it at all and said that she had indeed been to the hotel, but had just returned after a short while. But the next thing she said, but it caused him to reveal a flaw directly. The man asked the police, are they negotiating now? How could he possibly have stabbed his father's neck with a knife? However, the police never said from the beginning how the old president died. Clearly, Lu Xingxiu knows the inside story. He has also become the prime suspect so far. Reviewing the scene surveillance again, Han Shengming discovered that an employee working at the hotel likely witnessed the true identity of the murderer. But on the way to confirm the witness, Han Shengming told Lu Shi that the mayor's brother, Lu Xingxiu, is just a puppet. The real culprit is someone else, because on the day of the old chairman's birthday, only the mayor knows which room the former president is in at the hotel. Only he can stop the president from donating his vast fortune to society. Clearly, Lu Shi has already confirmed the answer in his heart, and now all the truth will naturally be revealed when we meet the eyewitness. It will be clear to everyone. But who would have thought that before they could arrive, a group of people had already reached the witness's home. By the time Han Shengming arrived at the witness's house, the place was already empty. Fortunately, just as they were preparing to take action against the witness, Lu Shi and Han Shengming arrived in time. And it was at that moment that Lu Shi saw for the first time that strange tattoo on the man's body. Thanks to Han Shengming's quick reflexes, both of them managed to escape unharmed, and the witness was successfully taken back to the police station. Han Shengming quickly broke his defenses with a few words. The chairman used to take good care of the young witness. On his birthday, he was planning to send his best wishes to the chairman. Unexpectedly, he ran into Lu Xingxiu covered in blood in the hallway. Lu Xingxiu threatened him to keep silent and told him to prepare to go abroad. With the witness's testimony, Jing Hao immediately applied for an arrest warrant to detain Lu Xingxiu. However, what they did not expect was that Lu Xingxiu seemed to know in advance, sitting calmly in the office, waiting for their arrival. What puzzled them, however, was that everything in his office had been cleared out. Han Shengming realized that Lu Xingxiu must have received intel, and the fact that the intel came so quickly only indicated that there was a mole in the team. Jing Hao had a big argument with Han Shengming over this, because he believed believed. His teammates would never do such a thing. The two parted on bad terms over this. After Liu Xingxiu was arrested, Mayor Liu Xingming expressed his stance through the media. Even if it is his own younger brother, he urged the prosecutors and police to impose severe punishment. But then he personally went to the police station, secretly meeting with Liu Xingxiu. By the time Han Shengming arrived to stop him, it was already too late. The mayor had already met with Liu Xingxiu, personally assured him that he would be released soon, then turned and walked out of the police station doors, speaking to the large crowd of reporters that he believed the police were over-investigating. Han Shengming never expected that the mayor's brother would pull a classic escape trick. First, he made Liu Xingxiu take all the blame, then deliberately spread rumors to the media. But after the meeting, he framed the police for excessive search, staged a rescue of Liu Xingxiu, and even announced it in front of the media. Return the inherited property to society, while clearing the suspicions. It also establishes a grand image of the mayor for the public. I have to say, this really is quite a lot at once. So many birds. For now, they can only protect the witness as well. Then start collecting clues again. But just as the witness was in the bathroom, a group of people was preparing to break in. The witness noticed something was wrong and shouted, but as he peeked out, he was struck down with a baton and fell to the ground. Then the tragedy happened again. The scene shifts, and several prison guards suddenly opened the cell door. Everyone was called out, except for Han Shengming alone. It turned out that not long ago, Sushi went to see prisoner number 1669 and pressured the warden to kill Han Shengming. But unexpectedly, all of this was secretly overheard by the prison doctor. Although Han Shengming, through the prison doctor who was an insider, knew about them, the plan was risky, and he was still in great danger. After the guards sent everyone else away, they locked all the doors. Then they handed the only electronic access card that could open the door to Abu. Abu and his men opened Han Shengming's door, but unexpectedly, Han Shengming was already prepared. But two fists were no match for four hands. Han Shengming was quickly chased and beaten by them. He could only keep running. He knew that only by figuring out a way to get the card from Abu would he have a chance to escape. Han Shengming seized the opportunity and tightly locked Abu's neck. But in the end, he was surrounded and beaten by the group. Big Brother was locked outside. I can only watch anxiously, just as Abu was about to take his life with a knife. Han Shengming smiled, because just when he was locking his neck, he had already obtained the electronic key card to the door. He flicked the card towards the door. His partner, Wen Hao, got the electronic access card. The big brother led the little brother in as they opened the door. Timely stopped Abu. The prison guards rushed in to prevent a riot. As well, Lu Shi discovered through investigating the list of prison staff that the prison doctor had actually inherited all of Han Xingming's assets. Finally realized that the prison doctor was actually Han Xingming's inside man in the prison. And the secretary told Lu Shi that before Grandpa was killed, he had been kidnapped once. But strangely, the two men and one woman who kidnapped him all committed suicide mysteriously afterward because the plan to kill Han Shengming failed again. Su Shi once again furiously scolded the prison warden because the verdict for leader 1669 has been announced. He will be released in a month. But this also means that as long as Han Shengming is still here, 1669 is in danger every day. Han Shengming had already anticipated the verdict for 1669, so he started executing his plan. He asked his older brother to help him find a way to solve the problem. Surveillance in the office, and the documents taken from the cabinet. Wen Hao returned to his old profession. He found an opportunity to secretly take the guard's keys. After making a copy of the impression, he returned them. Successfully made a copy of the cabinet key, using the time to clean the trash can. The guard happened to go to the restroom at that moment. Big Brother has 2 minutes to open the cabinet and find the documents. Not a second more, not a second less. Just as the prison guard returns from the restroom, Big Brother successfully gets the documents in hand and hides them in the garbage truck. Meanwhile, the prison doctor finds Abu, hoping to buy the intelligence he holds for 2 billion won. I did not expect Abu to actually agree, and the death of Scarface before was actually because Abu took money from the imperial doctor, dissolved the poisonous Bible pages into the water, causing Scarface to unknowingly drink it and die from poisoning. And now Han Xingming's plan is about to begin again. Abu took the intelligence to the eldest brother who was about to destroy the documents. Since they can't kill Han Shengming, the warden decided to transfer Han Xingming to another prison. And actually, all of this was within Han Xingming's expectations. But he did not expect the warden to suddenly bring in his older brother to make a deal for his parole in exchange for him to kill Han Shengming. Han Shengming feared that Lu Shi would get too close to the truth. It could lead to fatal consequences. So he had the Imperial physician stop Lu Shi's investigation. The Imperial physician had someone knock Lu Shi out from behind. When he woke up, he was already lying in a hospital bed, and he had no memory of everything that had happened. He was completely unaware, and Han Shengming also knew that if he was not careful now, he could also lose his life directly. Before being moved to another cell, he asked his big brother to prepare a borrowed phone for him. Soon, his big brother took advantage of distributing food to put the borrowed phone inside a milk carton and handed it to Han Shengming. He then asked him what the next plan was, but at that moment, the warden arrived. Between the lines, they kept reminding Big Brother that they could not give him much time, urging him to quickly kill Han Shengming. Big Brother was momentarily caught in a dilemma. At that moment, Lu Shi, through investigating the clues of Grandpa's kidnapping case, found the apartment where Jin Sulian, involved at the time, lived, and got in touch with the building manager of the apartment to understand the situation with Jin Sulian. But whenever Jin Sulian was mentioned, the building manager said he knew nothing. Suddenly, the building manager received a phone call. While he went out to answer it, Lu Shi found a book under the cabinet with a camel embossed on the cover. Lu Shi knew the building manager must know something. He hurriedly said goodbye after hiding the book. But as Lu Shi was just stepping out the door, she saw a group of women walking towards her from across the hallway. The building manager also noticed something was off and chased after her. In her panic, Lu Shi accidentally dropped the book on the ground. The leading woman scolded Lu Shi upon seeing this, telling her to leave quickly. Lu Shi suddenly realized there must be some terrifying secret hidden in this apartment. Han Shengming used a blanket as a cover. He took Jianming's phone out of the milk carton. He called the lead prosecutor in his case, asked him to come to prison with important information. Han Shengming then told the lead prosecutor the true identity of prisoner 1669. It turns out that Professor Park Hyun from the Church of Humanity is prisoner 1669, and the many cases handled by the prosecutor in charge are actually orchestrated by the Church of Humanity. They will eliminate anyone who poses a threat to them. They package everything as a false belief, calling it divine guidance. The victims include the wealthy class of Lianan City, and those in power seize their weaknesses and exploit them. They also systematically conceal their crimes. Han Xingming's sister was also victimized because she was tracking them, and just as the two of them were talking, the older brother quietly came to the prison. After struggling outside the warden's door, he still knocked on the door. In order to get the gem, he decided to take advantage of the yard time the next day to help the warden get rid of Han Shengming. Lu Shi tried to find out about those strange women in the apartment through the chubby girl there. But unexpectedly, a woman suddenly appeared with a knife, ran away after stabbing the fat girl. Lu Shi chased after her, found the woman at a fork in the road. Suddenly, a car sped towards them. It turned out to be the chief prosecutor. Han Shengming knew Lu Shi might be in danger, so he sent the chief prosecutor to help. Unexpectedly, at that moment, the woman suddenly tried to commit suicide with a broken bottle in her hand. Fortunately, the rescue was timely. The woman's life was saved. Lu Shi also learned from the woman that his father's death was related to religion, and the secret must be hidden in the apartment with that group of strange women. However, just as Lu Shi was about to investigate, but found that group of women had already moved out overnight. Suddenly, they all disappeared, and in the hospital, the woman who attempted suicide was also gone from her bed. Lu Shi knew that what he was investigating, Han Shengming would have more answers he wanted to know. So he came to the prison, but he did not expect that today Han Shengming was already doomed. During the yard time, a riot suddenly broke out in the prison. The inmates clashed with the guards, and this was exactly the warden's plot to kill Han Shengming once again. Abu sensed that something was off. He saw his older brother approaching Han Shengming with a knife, so he called his younger brothers to step in and protect Han Shengming. But it was already too late. Han Shengming did not expect the older brother he always trusted would actually stab him in the back. By the time Abu arrived, Han Shengming was already wounded and on the ground, and Lu Shi just happened to see Han Shengming lying in a pool of blood. But in fact, this was all part of Han Shengming's carefully planned scheme. The imperial doctor rushed in hurriedly and called for an ambulance from the crowd. Because of the timely treatment, it was only shock caused by excessive blood loss. At this moment, Lu Shi finally understood why Han Shengming had strongly opposed his investigation back then. When Han Shengming woke up, he immediately asked, how much time do they have left? This was part of Han Shengming's plan. He knew all along that the warden would send Big Brother to deal with him. He made Big Brother promise the warden to strike during the yard time the next day, because only then could he set the trap. He would have enough time to take out inmate 1669. But the risk was huge. If he missed by even a little bit, Han Shengming could really die because of this. Fortunately, everything was under Han Shengming's control. The next day, he returned to his cell and told his big brother about his desire to enter the fourth prison, because Han Shengming had already memorized the original layout of of the 4th prison. He only needed his big brother who had once been involved in its renovation. Just tell him the modifications to make. However, at this moment, after multiple attempts to pressure the warden into killing Han Shengming failed, she instructed the warden to strengthen security at Building 4, and also told him to target Lu Shi when necessary. Although she is Mayor Lu's daughter, that was also Han Shengming's only weakness. Meanwhile, Number 1669 personally met with Abu and exposed that he had once taken money from Han Shengming. He had secretly helped Han Shengming multiple times. The old man hides a knife behind a smile. The implication is that if Abu wants to survive now, he can only help eliminate Han Shengming, the thorn in his side. Due to the increased security at the 4th, Han Shengming can only enter the 4th from the back of the building, and this requires Wenhao's help. Han Shengming begins to methodically carry out his plan. A storm of prison games is brewing beneath the surface, but just at this critical moment, the Imperial Doctor finds Lu Shi, hoping he can stop Han Shengming, because Lu Shi is now the only one who can prevent him. But Lu Shi took the opportunity to ask back. When exactly did Han Shengming's plan begin? 2 years ago, a man driven to desperation by the cult found Han Shengming's sister, Yanju, and gave her some information. Yanju saw a video of cult members being killed for leaving the cult. But because the footage is too dark, the evidence is insufficient. There is no way to uncover more clues. The whistleblower, who is the director of the Extraterrestrial Foundation, was also murdered. After killing the whistleblower, they sent a text message to Yen Zhu using the whistleblower's phone. They lured Yen Zhu to the location where they disposed of the body. Just as Yen Zhu realized something was wrong and was calling for help, Car sped toward him and hit him. Before dying, he told Han Shengming that he had something important hidden under his office chair, and Yen Zhu was already pregnant with the Imperial Doctor's child when she died. Han Shengming was under Yen Zhu's chair, found a USB drive, and thus began the investigation into Renjiao. And it was at that time that Han Shengming started collecting evidence of Renjiao's crimes. He began to set up a grand scheme. At this time, Lu Shi also learned from the royal physician that her father, Mayor Lu, was actually the second in command in the Renjia church. Lu Shi also voiced the question that had been on his mind. The person who killed his father was not Han Shengming at all. So who was the real culprit? At this moment, the imperial physician said, he has evidence of Mayor Lu's murder on him, but that is all he could say. After speaking, he turned and left. Meanwhile, Han Shengming was preparing to start his plan. But at this moment, he realized a very serious problem. When Han Shengming was planning, he never considered how to return. He was already determined to share the same fate. Number 1669. The scene shifts to a woman with 2 boyfriends, secretly infiltrated a wealthy family's home. After killing the man, she repeatedly stabbed the woman with a knife until the woman died. The strange thing is, afterward, the female assassin's phone call began with her showing hesitation. The 3 of them showed expressions of reluctance, but with a helpless expression. When the police arrived, they found that the 3 murderers had collectively committed suicide by poison. After Lu Shi examined the scene, he discovered that the method was identical to that of the group who had previously kidnapped his grandfather. The techniques were exactly the same. The 3 of them came from different places, and all committed suicide by poison after completing their mission. And Lu Shi knows that her investigation is getting closer to the truth. This has brought disaster to this family. Not long ago, Lu Shi visited this family to investigate the matter of Renjiao. She did not expect that Renjiao would act so quickly. She recalled what Han Shengming had told her, that there must be undercover agents from Renjiao in the police force. Han Shengming, who is in prison, also knows that if he delays any longer, Lu Shi will be in even greater danger outside. He could also miss the chance to kill number 1669 at any moment. Had the royal physician, Zai Zhang, provide cover for him, he took out the tools he had prepared in advance. He opened the window of the medical room. He stealthily made his way to Area 4, take out the prepared wooden nails, and hammer them into the wall at specific spots. Then bury the hammer right there. Next, punch a hole in the rooftop water tank through a small pipe. Direct the water into the holes where the wooden nails were hammered. When old building walls absorb water, they will slowly swell and crack. Then he only needed to wait for the right moment to break through the wall and kill number 1669. However, just as he was about to leave, he was discovered by 2 young workers repairing the searchlights. Han Shengming could only hurry to leave, but unexpectedly, while locking the door, he broke off part of the wooden key. The guard who discovered the anomaly was also rushing to the medical room to confirm the situation. Fortunately, Han Shengming returned to his bed the moment The guard opened the door. However, the warden inadvertently overheard the conversation between the two electricians. He went back to check again, just to be sure, on the ground, and found a wooden block dropped by Han Xingming. Then he led the team to search the infirmary. They quickly found a pile of wooden objects, and in his cell, they also found similar wooden items. Just as the warden questioned him about the purpose of these wooden pieces, Wen Hao came out to explain, saying these are just their Ludo game pieces. Zai Zheng also took the opportunity to explain that prisoners often play this game when they are bored. I see. Han Shengming had anticipated the risks of this method early on, so while making them, he specifically instructed Wen Hao to make them in an assembled form. In this way, they narrowly escaped the inspection. But after the warden returned, he took out the keys for comparison. He discovered the tooth marks on the wooden block. They were exactly the same as the tooth marks on the key for the fourth building's iron gate. Identical. Meanwhile, the people outside the prison began to take action against Han Xingming's inside contact in the prison. Zai Zheng just stepped out. The people from the organization threatened him with his sister's safety. They forced him to get in the car. And all of this was naturally part of Sushi's plan. Turning around, Sushi walked up to Zai Zheng with a hammer. She smashed his feet again and again. Afterward, she threatened him that if he continued to investigate, not only would she kill him, and his pregnant sister will also end up like his ex-girlfriend. One body, two lives. The authorities are determined to eliminate Han Shengming and his accomplices. They sent people to search the home of the imperial physician. Unexpectedly, they found a memory card behind a picture frame, and what was stored inside was Lucity, the secret of the long-time victim. It turns out that on the night of the incident, the person who kidnapped Mayor Lu onto the bridge was Zai Zheng. Zai Zheng questioned the mayor about why he wanted to kill Yan Zhu while strangling Mayor Lu. But in his anger, he lost his reason and accidentally killed Mayor Lu. Afterwards, he could only call Han Shengming. After receiving the call, Han Shengming drugged Lu Shimi. Then he drove to the scene. Han Shengming, to protect Zai Zheng, had him remove the dashcam memory card from the car. Then, he personally handled the crime scene, deliberately leaving his fingerprints on the car, and tied a rope around the victim's neck. Then he was hanged from the bridge. Afterwards, he had Zai Zheng leave the scene. He stayed behind, waiting for the police to arrive. Meanwhile, Suzy, who obtained the video, felt she now had leverage over Han Shengming. After the call, she actually killed Zai Zheng. In Zai Zheng's final call before dying, he kept repeating, "Let Han Shengming never forget the original intention when the plan started." Crazy Sushi sent someone to find Lu Shi, on the condition that he has evidence proving Han Shengming's innocence. To meet Lu Shi risked everything for the truth, but ended up falling into their trap again, and was placed under house arrest. The purpose of their confinement of Lu Shi was actually to offer her as a saint to the leader of the church. Han Shengming knew that to deal with such villains, he had to resort to unconventional methods. He leveraged his older brother's influence outside, using their own tactics against them. He took the warden's wife. He threatened the warden. He made the warden allow him to keep his right to stay in the infirmary. The warden was under pressure and could only agree. Then Han Shengming met with Officer N and informed him about the long-term investigation into Ren Jiao, asking him to conduct a covert investigation outside. As an undercover agent in the police force, he was given an account back. It holds evidence of many years of crimes committed by others. However, at this moment, Sushi came up with a more vicious counterattack plan. He had Lu Shi's uncle, Lu Xinxiu, pretend to rescue Sushi. After gaining trust, Lu Xinxiu deceived Lu Shi, saying he would take him to meet Zai Zheng. Unexpectedly, after Lu Shi was brought into the apartment, she was directly knocked out from behind by Lu Xinxiu. Then, another killer appeared in the room. He took out a knife. He killed another woman in the room. Then he staged the scene to frame Lu Shi. Meanwhile, Han Shengming had just returned to the infirmary. He fell into Abu's ambush. At this moment, Lu Shi woke up and discovered there was a dead body beside him, and the murder weapon was in his hand. It was clear that he had been framed. However, he was not the only one in danger. Han Shengming in the prison was also being targeted for murder. Fortunately, the prison warden arrived just in time. The prison warden was restrained by Han Shengming. He quickly called out to Abu, and Han Shengming managed to save his life. But Lu Shi was not so lucky. Waiting outside, Lu Xinxiu picked up the phone, personally reported the incident to the police. Lu Shi instantly became a murderer. In a moment of crisis, he could only call first, the only trustworthy prosecutor, for help. But now all the evidence at the scene shows Lu Shi is the murderer. It is only a matter of time before he is wanted. Han Shengming learned from the prison warden that Lu Shi had fallen into the trap set by the People's Education He realized his plan could not be delayed any longer. We must take action quickly. He approached Officer N to understand the entire sequence of events. He tried to find a flaw to help Liu Xiu escape danger. Sure enough, Officer N was inspired by Han Xingming's analysis, and through covert investigation, discovered that Jinghao was actually a member of the Human Education Society as well. Jinghao feels like he has been a police officer his whole life, but he could not even protect the person he loves the most. His wife was home alone when she was targeted for revenge by Jinghao's enemies. The assailants not only severely injured his wife, but also forcibly assaulted her. Because of this inhumane ordeal, he later turned to faith. He gave his wife the courage to live on. From then on, Jinghao began walking down a path of no return. At this time, Jinghao met with Han Shengming, which was also a final warning to Han Shengming and Lu Shi. However, Han Shengming knew that if the influence of the Renjiao was not completely eradicated, then there would be more innocent victims suffering as a result. He knew the plan had to be moved up, but at this moment, Officer N, who had been investigating secretly outside, was brutally murdered and hung by a rope next to the garbage truck. Seeing his comrades, as close as brothers, fall victim, Jinghao was filled with extreme grief and rage. However, the expression on the nearby team member Xubin's face, but it gradually became subtle. It turned out that after Xubin discovered that the eldest brother was investigating the cult, she used Officer An's admiration for her as an excuse to lure him to her home. When Officer An realized that Xubin might be connected to the cult, it was already too late, and Xubin was not only a spy undercover in the police force, she is also the daughter of the leader of the People's Church. Jinghao had already suspected that Officer An's death was caused by someone named away, but he did not expect that it was the president's daughter who took action herself. Han Shengming repeatedly recalled the last conversation with Zhaijing. What Zhaijing said, he finally understood the meaning behind Zhaijing's last words. He is just like Yanju, left something for Han Shengming in the chair. Suddenly, Jinghao called Han Shengming. He informed him about Officer An's murder. This made Han Shengming feel even more that taking action ahead of time was imperative. He sought help from his older brother. He asked his brother and Wenhao to set a trap to injure the guard on duty that night. Forced to change the guards on duty at night. Everything was ready. After the preparations at night, Han Shengming began to act. He calculated the frequency of the time difference in the search of the spotlight. He arrived at the iron gate of Building 4, but unexpectedly, he was still seen by the prison guard at the moment he opened the door. Just as he picked up the hammer to break the wall, he suddenly heard the prison guard shouting. He could only attack the guard and then hurriedly escape. Meanwhile, Director Han Shengming's assassination plan was uncovered by the warden. The warden ordered that the entire prison, even if it meant digging 3 feet into the ground, must find Han Shengming. 10 hours ago, Lu Shi came to see Han Shengming. He did not want Han Shengming to become a murderer just to take down the cult, so he revealed his own plan. He would pretend to agree with the leader, offering himself as a saint to the leader. He would draw all the church's attention onto himself, while the prosecutor outside would take the opportunity to seize the cult's winery. With the Yixing Foundation, Korean Shengming knows in his heart that this will put Lu Shi in even greater danger, and using legal methods, may not be able to shake the foundation of the church. After the operation fails, Han Shengming calls Prosecutor Zhang to ensure Lu Shi's safety at all costs. Han Shengming can only go all in now. He had his older brother safely send the warden's wife back home. And it was this gamble that Han Shengming got right. The warden, long constrained by the teachings of others, indeed still had a conscience. He did not want to be controlled by others any longer, so he decided to secretly help Han Shengming. He gave his older brother a phone. He also handed over the access card to Building 4 to his brother, but he could only help them hold off for 10 minutes during the operation. His brother contacted Han Shengming by phone. That night, he handed the access card to him at the waste incineration plant, and instructed Han Shengming that he would do his utmost to help him. And at the same time, Lu Shi put the plan into action. She followed Sushi to meet the church leader. When Lu Shi saw this malicious old man, she immediately understood. It turned out that when she was very young, her father had already been raising her as a saint, to be offered to this old man. And it was precisely because her mother wanted to protect Lu Shi that she was forced to take her own life under the pressure from the religious society. Thinking of this, Lu Shi immediately exposed this old man's conspiracy. The so-called holy maiden is just a filthy excuse for an aging, lustful man to satisfy his own desires. He is willing to kill so many innocent people. This moment, Han Shengming in the prison has already begun to take action. To cover for Han Shengming, when Hao starts to create chaos inside the prison, he opens all the doors in the cells. He releases the prisoners. Han Shengming makes his way toward Building 4. At this moment, the prosecutor takes the opportunity to lead a team to start searching the foundation under Renjiao and the winery they run. In the courtyard of the winery, a large number of victims' bodies were found. The scene was horrifying, chilling, Han Shangming has finally arrived at the last gate of District 4, about to face the long-awaited moment of revenge. Unexpectedly, Abu tried to intervene. Suzy also took Liuxi hostage to threaten Han Shangming. Abu took the opportunity to ambush Han Shangming, but at the critical moment, Han Shangming pulled out the gun left to him by Zijing. He pointed it at the chairman's forehead. However, at the crucial moment, Liuxi stopped Han Shangming. She said that from the moment she came in, all the recorded evidence has been transmitted outside in real time. The situation for Renjia University is dire. After confirming with a phone call, Sushi flew into a rage. Seeing this, Abu also changed his approach. He left with his underlings. The president, witnessing this, suddenly shifted all the blame onto Sushi, claiming that everything he did was for her. They were all acting under Susie's orders. Then they started kneeling and begging Han Shangming for mercy. But Han Shangming knew that if he did not personally kill this old man, they would likely turn around and come back for him. Just as Han Shangming was hesitating, gunshots rang out. The old man was killed on the spot. It turns out that Jinghao had a moment of conscience and felt guilty towards the police force. He went to prison to take the shot for Han Shangming, and Jinghao knew that his sins were deep. Afterward, he took his own life with a bullet. 3 months later, the core members of the organization were brought to justice as they should have been. Unfortunately, it is unbelievable that the murderess Suzy was not sentenced to death. She was only given a life sentence. Jinghao should have just shot her back then. However, when Liuxi returned to the office, he found Xiaobin packing up and saying he was quitting. When Liuxi asked for the reason, Xiaobin only said he was going back to take over the family business. However, Liuxi, who was unclear about Xiaobin's background, he still does not realize that Xiaobin is speaking in riddles. Xiaobin is quietly leading the remnants of the original teaching faction. They are preparing to make a comeback. Not long after, the fact that Han Shangming did not commit murder was confirmed. He was ultimately acquitted. After bidding farewell to his brother, he regained his freedom. In the end, true lovers always end up together, but waiting for them are still the unpunished sins in this city, and we look forward to the second season of this show. Thank you for watching this series with Xiao Shuai. See you in the next show.